Sandra. All right. So I'll start with Opeyemi Akinyode. As did you experience, as you know, because the reports that we are getting from across the country, not just Lagos, is there was the turnout was poor, abysmal.
The most important thing is that we've gotten to let me say we're done with the second phase of the general election instead of on the 25th of February. Amidst all of the uncertainty, we're not sure if it's going to happen. The whole cash issue, petroleum shortage. There was just so much, build up to the election. But President Muhammadu Buhari consistently said that the election was going to hold on the 20th. I remember very well on the week of that election. People were still not sure if it was going to hold. But at the end of the day, we got through the first one on the 25th of February amidst all of the chaos, all of the talks, all of the to the fact that even the two major opposition parties, the PDP and the Labour Party, had to challenge the result of the presidential election. Then we had to move the governorship election by another 1 week because INEC was unable to get a court judgment that allowed them to reconfigure the beavers for the election. But we got all of that sorted as well, and here we are today, the 18th day of March 2022, and like you said, voting, sorting, counting, declaration of result had already gone down in some places that we covered. Some places are still trying to tidy up things. Well, it's been really tough. A lot of us expected that with the level of sensitization that had gone on in between the last election and now, would expect a large. I was very confident of the fact that we would have more numbers as against a little over 1.3 million that came out in Lagos to vote the presidential election. We had about 1.34 million, registered voters, a little over 1.2 million valid votes out of almost 7 million registered voters in Lagos. So we're thinking that because it governs them as quick as of the people, the fact that it's scary. Beautiful enough, we had huge turnout in some places, but if you put it side by side, some places, Sandra, there were polling units that had 619 in Yaba, 619 registered voters. Only 84 people came out and got accredited to vote. Only 84 out of almost 700.
All right. Thank you very much, Opeyemi Akinyode. I'm sure for Nurudeen also has, honestly, I don't know, what was happening because, Nurudeen's constituency composed majorly of the island area, and the report that we're getting was just a lot of drama. I'll just leave that at that.
Well, thank you, Sandra. Lagos is today was not a very good place. It was not a very good place, I must confess, and a lot of blood, I must confess. In fact, it's today. In a very longer time. I've not seen this sick of it was Boko not Haram. As so worse like this, and anybody from all the local government on the island down to Epe will really agree with me. Apart from Epe is a little bit different, and Ibejuleki a little bit different, but Etiosa, both the LCDA, Etiosa East LCDA, in fact, in front of that particular council is another thing. And looking at this particular time, we still have, as of today, the late arrival of materials, and it's not so that good that we always see that occurrence all the time. And the hoodlums still have their way. I must confess, a lot of places. There are numerous to be mentioned, and could you believe there are some certain polling units as at today that no vote did not even take place, and there are some as at 2:02, that is when you have some INEC officials just coming. When did they want to finish? And the one of VGC, that one is a theater of dreams. Theater of dreams.
Problem.
Yes, I'm telling you, when you are seeing the former NBA chairman also doing as if in Aluta also, and they are fighting for their right, where INEC have to shift their polling unit outside the gate of the VGC, and all of them said no. What really happened is that during the presidential election, INEC officials came late. They have 10 polling units inside VGC. They came late, and they were saying if you come around 2:30 and you are to come by 8 and leave by 2:30, that hours must complete before you leave. That was what really happened, and they make sure that those periods everybody voted. In fact, they have to give them food, make sure they assist them.
They brought solar powered lamps for them to run.
That is what they did at that part. So this time around, when they now came, all of them, they've arranged themselves to different polling units. They have 2 polling units at the entrance. When you enter like this, the first straight line like this, they have 2. Then they have a place like a park. It's a general park. That is where the 8 polling unit is. So they arrange themselves. And the way lower people now, the way they arrange themselves, no line up, but they use some chairs as lining up. You sit down comfortably
to cast their vote.
If you chop, they put it all around for just sit down. You just be ordering.
It's a be giving vote and chill.
And before you know
I have to move to VGC.
I'm thinking of it too.
And when they now see outside, they now said no, and they talk in unison. They all agree. Even we spoke to ADC governorship candidate also, just like every other, but because of their consistency, and they make sure that nothing is going to happen to the INEC staffers, but they are not going to vote outside. And to God who made me, if they voted outside, the Ulams will have attacked them in front of that. Because
so they took their polling units outside
the gate. So, and because of that, and before you get there, for people that know that very, very well, from Agungi, there was hijack and snatching of ballot buses. Igbo the same thing. These are 2 or 3 Ikota school, because we have 2 Ikota. Ikota bus stop, Ikota school. Those 2, even 2 bus stops before VGC. After VGC, Aja was a little bit calm, but by the time at the junction of Abraham Adesonya, but that left, that one they've lined up, they've sorting, they finished voting, and police officers were there. In fact, we spoke to a soldier that said he was blaming the police officers. How will you people so dull like this? They are starting. You cannot call us because they are on the highway and they are that runabout of Abraham Adesanya.
So they snatched ballot boxes there.
They did, and from there, Shangote, that is the
University
of crime.
That's the theater of crime.
At one side, there is a particular 2 polling units in front of Etiosa East LCDA. In the morning when we got there, we discovered that we saw that they packed some chairs away from there. We now asked some people, they said yes, that INEC officials, they put some thugs just came around, they smashed
all the chairs.
They has those people that are renters to come and park their chairs, they park it. So people who stood there, maybe they will see where to vote. But in the other side, there is a polling unit there, but those majority of those voters in that polling unit, they were guys, so they managed it as if with their life. There were many. So what now happened was that since they could not vote in the other side, there are some certain people that want to disrupt the other side. Those people now revolted. That is why before we could know it, a lot of policemen, over 52 policemen, soldiers also came. They were throwing bottles. There is a Ekpe Expressway in between. They were throwing bottles
from the other side of the road.
Yes, to themselves. To the extent that there are some staffers, I don't know what they are doing inside that local government. They were much inside that particular local government. They could not come out. They have to lock themselves inside. As an investigative journalist, I have to go there. Spoke to one particular woman. She allowed me enter. I entered because I accused the woman. What happened?
Nurudeen.
That's the thing. There are a lot of things that happened. I must
Nurudeen, Matthew Kodwa just sent me a message now and said that, oh, thank God that they all came back with their head on their shoulders because a lot of things happened out there. I know that one of our correspondents almost lost his phone, if not Fuhad, that he has mouths everywhere.
Street credibility.
So his street credibility, was very necessary at that point. He was able to hustle the phone out. Fuhad also has stories to tell, but it seems to be more positive or optimistic.
A mix of positive and negative. But I have to say that we shouldn't have this happen again in the next 4 years. Honestly, it's sad. It's unfortunate that we can't organize ourselves. The international community observed these elections. They saw what happened. I'm sure they would not be so completely emphatic to condemn the elections, but I must say that This time around, we can't completely blame INEC for what happened today. I think we have to sit back, do a postmortem, analyze the situation, and come up with a strategy to deal with election violence.
I understand where you are coming from, because that was the major problem that we had today, which was security
Issues.
It was the major problem. But we have in different cases where almost 11 polling units, 6 polling units are just picked and then relocated without any prior communication
to the voters who are told that they voted there February 25 to be the same
so
place.
They should go there and just cast their votes now, which is why about 11 polling units or so in the VGC now has to have their own election tomorrow. All right, where by tomorrow would have hoped that Opeyemi will be back from wherever he's going to this evening, and everything would have
he has a long day. He will probably stay there too.
He has a long weekend.
We even stopped by anyways, and they've not even set up the collation.
That's to tell you that it's going to be a long
place
weekend.
Is under lock and key.
And another thing again is that there are some certain places in Etiosa also that election did not take place at all. No material, no INEC office, no nothing. They are much, and in Ekpe, that for today, they are the home of vote buying.
I think
it is feasible.
They said vote buying was so rampant.
The way they did it was that the way they did it.
I want to hear this.
What happened was that when you have a polling unit, opposite that house that is polling unit, there will be 3 different units there, created by politicians. One is going to be for if you have card and there is a POS.
They will pay you.
They will pay you. If you want to transfer, you put your name down before you go and vote with your account number. You vote like this, they will transfer to you.
How much are we talking?
Some 2,000 naira, 3,000 naira, and if you have to have 1 or 2, 3 people that you brought them, you get extra 1,000 naira plus your 2,000 naira.
Buy one, get one.
And it was so evident. And they use women. They use women for this act. In fact, the elderly women that you will never think of.
I think we can all agree that Nurudeen will no longer be going to Lagos East.
Maybe
before they circulate your picture.
Maybe I should go there. Maybe I'll say something different.
No,
and they will have attacked us also at inside Leko under Ibejuleki. But for the fact that that place is still under my palm, there is no way. That one is under my palm. I told them probably that they can't do anything.
You know the incident that point that we reported in the morning. It was a case of boys who were doing the job of INEC and security officials. Basically, what they did was to hijack the job of INEC. So they stood at the entrance of Ekponri Secondary School,
which wasn't even supposed to be the polling unit in the first place.
No, they were they have always been polling units in Ekponri Secondary School. But the information we got from some of the voters that they were attacking was that INEC moved their polling unit from somewhere called Idita in Sulere into the school. And so they got that it was a situation where boys manned the entrance of the school. And so for you to gain access into the school or not. So
the non-adult staff of INEC.
I said they took the job. So I now told one of them that, hey, this is not your job. If you are a party supporter, a party agent, you're supposed to be at the polling unit to monitor the voting process and work for your party. This is the job of, look, it's even very simple. The voters register is pasted at each polling unit. So if you think it's not there, let them go into the school, check the voters register, and if they don't find their name there, they simply go back to where they're coming from.
I just want to also bring this to light because I put Fuhad on the spot. I asked him a particular question because when we were getting information from different parts of the country, what information we were getting was that yes, there were pockets of violence, but the security forces were able to curtail them before it expanded.
In other states,
in other states. But in Lagos, I mean, it's happening right in front of security agents, and they can't do anything about it. So, could it be that the Adegbenro problem that we have in Lagos was a major factor to how this was able to be done and away with? Was it easy like that? If we are pushing the blame on security agents, do you think the government also had what it was supposed to do before the election day?
Well, as a Nigerian, we must confess this. Today's election in Lagos East Senatorial District, I can confirm that hoodlums, touts, area boys, they had their way. And the majority of the security operatives stationed at different polling units, they are looking away, with the neck like this, talking to us. Could you believe that man, according to an INEC ad hoc staff that did not want her name to be mentioned. She said immediately the guy was coming that we don't want somebody. They stumble on this out. So what we have to just do is that he cannot go to the hospital just like that. I moved closer to the police officer that held them, and I said, come madam, we need to assist this man. We have to make sure we took him to the nearest police station, and he was being treated before we left, and we came back to come and check. The guy was being, that place was being stitched. There are other areas. Apart from that, there are other 3 or 4 people that were attacked inside that particular polling unit, and they were hoodlums even before you enter, to the extent that attention of soldiers have to call. You know, they are on the highway expressway, they have to come inside. They were like up to 50 before you could see them this scattered, but they were still around. They are area boys, they are boys all around, they are boys on the street attacking innocent Nigerians that want to. That one is part 1. There is another one again before Songotedo, as is also. There is a popular market there. They call it Market Bus Stop in Songotedo. What they normally do is that they will hang around. That is beside the road. The polling unit is beside the road. They now stick around. Immediately you are coming like this, they will say go back. When they look the appearance like this, go back. If you don't go back, they will attack. And that is the situations that have made it that those boys have to go and come together and say, no, we can't take this. I think that was the basis of that particular incident. And if you see the bottles transferring from different angles, as if
from one club to the other.
In fact, and I must give kudos to one commissioner of police, part of the IG monitoring unit. If not because of him, because the guy have to stood up. In fact, Etiosa East LCDA was thoroughly searched, because there are some insinuation and allegation that they are voting inside, and the man have to listen to those crowd people, yeah, and mobilizes, and they have to search one by, and just truly follow them, and we discovered that there was nothing inside that particular LCD, and that was in fact a chairman of that local government was also accused of even fighting in the morning immediately we left.
It's all right. Thank you very much. That's a lot of information to process.
Lagos East, interesting reports from Lagos East.
From Nurudeen Adegbenro. It's very important for us to know that, because Fuhad may go there and not see all these things that you see. That's okay. All right, Opeyemi, Lagos West was relatively cold. We didn't get any information as regards maybe there were any inconveniences or disturbances or intimidation.
Funny enough, Lagos West covers the largest local government in Lagos, 10 local government and about 14 or 15 LCDAs, and we were able to cover virtually everywhere. In fact, we moved into side for us local government, because I mean information just kept flying around. So I told my team, I was like, okay, in case this team will not be able to cover that place and we are along that line, let us just pop in, and we ran into each other, and that place was something else. I mean, I saw the voters registered. I was supposed to be on the wall inside water. Last, people's faces were turned upside down. I mean, you see, I've actually had the privilege of covering election since 2015. And 2015, you would expect that as we see this election, 2011, I beg your pardon, 2015, I was an ad hoc staff. You would expect that as we move into our democracy, 24 years down the line, things should get better. A lot of us were super excited when President Muhammadu Buhari signed the Electoral Act, and then when the issue of the beaver started coming into the conversation, electronic transmission of result now in the IREV, we're thinking that we'll continue to make steady progress. But it looks like when we make a step forward, we take about 50 backward. Well, maybe because a lot of things that happened between the last 2 weeks and now, I must tell you for a fact that it looks like this election is actually worse than the presidential election. This is what I mean. A lot of statements, a lot of intimidation had gone on in the last 2 weeks. A lot of conversation as regards the ownership of Lagos, as regards the tribal cards that was being played, as regards who does what, and a lot of things had gone on. So, and the fact that there's House of Assembly election, which a lot of people had over the time realized that it's really close to them, is making it difficult. For instance, when we got to, we started off with the Keja. We went to the president-elect polling units. You would expect that everywhere was really peaceful. It's not a residential area as such. It's Alausa, the seat of power in Lagos. So a lot of people that registered in those places didn't come out to vote at those places. Probably most of them walked really far and they couldn't find a way to. So we usually have low turnout with high voters register. So everything went really peaceful there. But by the time we started moving into Agege, when we went to the residence of the speaker of the Lagos House of Assembly, Honorable Obasa, you could feel how tensed everywhere was. In fact, it took the intervention of a lot of people to prevent another thug from beating up an INEC staff because he wanted his friend to snap him in the cubicle when he was voting, and the INEC staff insisted that no, this is wrong. You're not going to do this. And the guy was, his blood was rushing, like his eyes were red, and you want to beat a woman. And I'm like, dude, what exactly is wrong with you? Oh, guy, you're not supposed to do this thing. He said he will slap that person and they will go tribal with the person. I was like, okay. And directly opposite, in short, opposite the speaker's house, in front of the speaker's house, the polling unit inside that shed. So you understand that a lot of people, see, this may not sound good, but I've always asked people, if you're comfortable going into an election, if you're confident enough that you've done your job, you've mobilized, you've informed the people. When I mean mobilizing, I'm not saying giving the people money. I'm talking about giving the people the reason why they should come out and vote for you. Then you should be able to sit in your house, relax, and just wait for the people to give you update. Oh, God, you voted, though. We've counted the result, though, and you've won the election. That is what election should be like. In fact, there's a certain candidate that is on the ballot for the House of Assembly. By the time we called him to ask how the things are, he said they are not even going to vote. He went to the polling units, and it's almost like
wow.
No, a lot people didn't even know he was. He just came in. I think it was when he was coming, and people were like, "Oh, this is this person," and then they started rushing. And that's the NRM movement.
Okay, right.
So it's really difficult for Lagos West. APC lost a lot of local government in Lagos West at the presidential election. Alimosho and Ikeja, Ojo, and all of that. So you think that there's been a lot of job that have been done in terms of mobilizing the people coming out to vote. So maybe when the results start coming out from tomorrow, you would notice a line of voting that the people in Lagos West just feel like, we went to Kotun, we went to Ajigbo, we went to Egbeda, we went to Rilope, we went to Idimu, we went to Akonwojo. All of those are under Alimosho, and people came out to vote. Everything was peaceful. So it's really difficult, and this is what I think. And I told Sandra when we were at Festac Amuwadofin, when we called on the show, you just think, maybe now this is me trying to read the mind of some of these politicians. Oh, I can protect my home. I think I'm comfortable in this place. But this place in the last election, I lost. Rather than for me to take a chance if I could win, why don't I scatter the place? Whether I would like it or not. That's exactly what happened today. That's exactly what happened. Why is there so much emphasis on the island? Why is there so much emphasis on Ekpe? And why there's so much emphasis on Ibejuleki? Why there's so much emphasis on Shongotedo?
Due to the fact that the ruling party lost in those specific areas, there was spotlight in those specific areas.
That's not what I'm insinuating as it is. I'm just saying. See, let us get this straight. It is easy for us to come out and say, the people that attacked. See, if you later find out, you'll be surprised to know that some of these people are not even thugs of the ruling APC. That should surprise you, because nobody has monopoly of violence, whether you like it or not. We've seen it even outside of Lagos. I spoke to my friend. I was in Kaduna, and he told me that the result of Kaduna will shock everybody today. And Kaduna is actually peaceful. Everybody thought it was not going to be peaceful. They told me that the result of Kaduna and Nasarawa State, because of the SDB factor, will shock a lot of people today. So my question is this: why Lagos? It seems the entire world. I had more than 15 correspondent reports from people calling me from every part of the country, like, how is Lagos? And I'm like, why Lagos? What exactly is going on in Lagos? Why is it that you're so comfortable throwing the tribal card into Lagos, throwing the tribal coin into Lagos? What is the interest about Lagos?
Can we probably maybe put it on the table? At the presidential election, the ruling party who coincidentally also produced the president-elect currently, lost out in Lagos State, a state that has supposedly been ruled by a particular party for the past 20-something years. And it was not just upset by an opposition, it was upset by a supposedly obscure
zero to 100 party.
Zero to hero opposition.
No structure party.
A no structure party. So, it was everybody felt that a certain person was the landlord of Lagos. He owned Lagos. Whatever happens in Lagos belongs to him. So for that to have happened, a lot of people you said the same thing, Opeyemi, in Ballot 23, that the energy that the opposition they had before the presidential election totally changed. It was almost 1,000% after the presidential election when the results came out. Look at the PDP, for example. Nobody's talking about the PDP anymore. Nobody even. Looking at conversations, trying to get information, where the PDP gubernatorial candidate, where he voted, what happened there. Nobody's talking about the PDP anymore. Now it's almost like, okay, where did GRV vote? What happened at GRV's polling unit? What's happening at the main 13 local governments or so where the Labour Party won? So do you think that all of this is just a play out of the presidential, and going forward, do you think or do you agree that we should continue our election cycle this way?
Well, to me, it's going to be different. Every election is going to be different. The way a presidential election went is going to be totally different. There is no election that's going to be assuming presidential election went simultaneously with the one of governorship election, then it could be related. This is another election entirely, so automatically it's going to be different. And a lot of things that happened during presidential election that did not happen at this particular hour. I must tell you, even in all the polling units that we visited, low turnout compared, because I was asking every polling unit agent and the INEC ad hoc staff to compare what happened presidential and now, and it's very, very low. What it means is this: part of those people that did not vote were those people that some were harassed, some have been said you better don't come and vote, something will happen. There are a lot of people like that. Another thing again is that I think after this election, because the election has not ended, particularly in Lagos State, VGC will still have we don't know whether it's rerun or continuation of the election we want to target. So we need to sit down and look for another way. Then INEC itself have some certain questions to answer. How come that in some certain polling units that they voted peacefully last election, then INEC officials and materials were not seen in those polling units? That one is one. Then two, how come that INEC officials will get to some certain polling units, they will put their table and whatever, and they will never show up until the end of the day?
Wait, hold on.
Yes.
INEC officials arrive at polling.
They arrive, they send the chair, they send the table, they said they are coming to bring the material, and they never show up. So those particular things are some of the questions. Then another thing again is that, like the one of VGC, what is the explanation that INEC wants to give? Because the last election they did not allow some ad hoc staff to leave when the time they supposed to come around, they didn't come. They come around 2:30, and those one insisted is for 6 hours or 7 hours that they must wait for all of them to vote. So because of that, you now move it without any communication, although Rex said they communicated, and the chairman of the resident there was saying it on phone directly, and he put it on speaker that, who did you direct the letter to? Who did you? At least I'm the chairman of, I'm the one you are going to direct it to. Where is it? He has to write another letter, and that was the reason why the issue had to be postponed. Do you know a lot of polling units, a lot of places that are not like VGC, because VGC is for high place and mighty people? What of other places like Agege, other places like Koshofe, other places like Ketu, other places like Ikorodu, that they did not see INEC officials at all? Who is going to fight for those people? Who is going to reschedule their own election till tomorrow? So these are kind of the thing that we need to look going forward, because one thing that is so important is this: every vote of a Nigeria count, irrespective of where you are. Another thing again is this: if you know the number of journalists in the morning that we met at VGC, and that is the one of the things that what make Mainland FM to be different from other media establishment is this: we don't pick location because Mighty is in that place. We go to the rurals, we go to everywhere, but it's only these places you have journalists, having much of them. In fact, we have international media organization here in VGC. What? And that is one of the things that going forward, I think the coverage, and one of the residents of VGC particularly said, I have to thank all the members of Mainland FM, that because of the noise that is so much, because I think we have like 3 different reports for VGC, even before they have to put forward it till tomorrow. And we're the only station when it was being broken that they have to have the election the second day, because we were there when they were making the conversation. The chairman have to put it on speaker for us to, and that was how he spoke to the people in the studio.
All right, Opeyemi, you reported, yes, you did report. You reported from the Coalition Center the largest amount of votes came from Amuwo-Odofin. Were there any pockets of violence in Amuwo-Odofin?
Yes. Well, there was a particular polling unit that we've covered. Let me start from the one that there was no violence. The one that we spoke with the former chairman of Amuwo-Odofin, and I mean, that one is the polling unit in Festac, very close to the riverine side of the local of the community. Yes, Adele has come out, and a lot of people came out in there. They were still voting. In fact, they were really much. There are 2 polling units, 2 voting points inside the same school. So they had to share them into 2, and then people had to be allowed to come in 4-4, 1, 2, 3, 4. You come in, you get to beavers, 1, 2, 3, 4. You go out to come in, and all of that. But there was a particular point that we got to, just where you are close to climbing the bridge, where the Lagos waterways, that ferry line. I mean, where there were reports that before we got there, one of the party agents was stabbed and he's been rushed from that place. So they were heavy. In short, there were 2 polling units opposite each other. There was one opposite a church, and there was one opposite one of these complexes there. Large turnout of people, but there were heavy presence of policemen and soldiers, NSCDC people. Like, that was actually what caught attention. Like, what exactly is going on here? Why is there so much concentration of military presence here? Like, gun tanks being being manned and put in those places. So we got off the vehicle and I was like, what's going on? They said just a few minutes ago, one of the party agents was stabbed and he's been rushed out. Well, I don't want to let out the name of the party agent, but we saw it there, and that really scared. In fact, something happened. While we were there, a lot of people were just hanging around. They didn't want to come close, and then I think electricity was restored in that place. When electricity comes and they hear the sound, and immediately that came on, everybody just turned around and went to the house like, thank God they brought lights. If they won't allow us to vote, then we should go back to our home. See, I'm going to be very sincere with you at this point. With all of the criticism that came with INEC after the presidential election, with all of the further conviction and assurances, you would expect us to have something really close enough to a better election. Now, if at the end of today the numbers are really even lower than the presidency, I won't be surprised if the numbers are, because we projected that we could get. I mean, on Wednesday when we had Ballot 23, we all projected that we're expecting to have real numbers, large numbers for the election, but it looks like it's going to be the other way around. Sandra, and to everyone listening this evening, we need to do a lot more in terms of commitment, and don't let us all put the problem on INEC and all of this thing alone. See, a lot of us, okay, I covered the voting of Ajibola Tinubu on the presidential election day, and I covered it today again. We were there when he arrived to vote for the presidential election. We were there when he arrived today. In fact, the level of security that I saw at that place today was crazy. Before we got there, a friend of mine that was already there gave me a message that I won't be able to park where we usually park, because when we got there, like, everything was set. You could feel the presence that someone else different from 25th of February was coming here to vote today. The commissioner of my friend Ben then was even there, the spokesperson of Lagos State Police Command. We had a very funny conversation. But when I got to social media, the pictures that were uploaded today from the official handle of the president-elect, a lot of people were saying those pictures were taken on the 16th of February 2022. And I'm like, Jay had to tag me on Twitter. I was like, excuse me,
the communication guys of the president.
Like, where did you get this from? Like, I saw this, I covered this, I had to upload pictures and videos of what happened, and somebody was still telling me that somebody was using really dirty language on me, that I don't have sense, whatever, that can't I see that these are old pictures. And the first question I asked was that, was there an election in February 2022?
I don't think.
At that particular place. He said no, he went to use the photo editor to confirm and it was 100%. And I'm like, so all of us have roles to play in all of this. You would see a video of a particular event that is not even close to where this is happening, and you tell me that, oh, right now at Amuwodofin, and I'm like, guys, we're at Amuwodofin, let's go to this, and you get to this place and I see everybody seated under the canopy voting. Some had voted, are just there chilled, and then somebody just uploaded the video that they just shot someone, and I'm like, a lot of us need to do so much more. We deepen our democracy, and then we do their own. The government will do their own. The the security agencies will do that. But even we as individuals, we have to do our own. One of the things that led to voter apathy today had to be a lot of the inciting statements that have been made by people. And you see, it will be difficult for you to convince me to come out of my house to vote when someone had literally threatened me that if I know I'm not going to vote for this political party, I should not come out. How would you want to tell me that? So you're not just violating my rights, my franchise, you're literally telling me that I am not safe to stay where you are. What if I come out to vote and somebody somewhere managed to see the party I voted for, and it is not your own party? Won't give me the impression that you won't come to my house and come and attack me. So I would rather stay in my house. You've one, denied me the opportunity to exercise my franchise. Two, you've denied me the opportunity to feel free in a community that I'm supposed to live happily, because you feel like your candidate is not maybe as popular as you'd expect it to be. So we can blame the government, we can blame INEC, we can blame whoever we want to blame, but let me not lie to you. We ourselves, we have huge roles to play in this particular process. Our democracy is not running in isolation. Our democracy is not running in emptiness. Our democracy is structured around individuals, people, friends, family, cousins, uncles, church members, really, people that we know, people that we can speak to, people that we relate with. But because of our tribal sentiment, because of our ethnics, because of our religions, we just feel like, well, if it benefits me, I'm comfortable with it. So all of us need to come around and ask ourselves, do we really have interest in this democracy, or we're just fooling ourselves? Because there's no way somebody will tell me that you came to snatch ballot box. How much did they give you? Let's not lie to ourselves. People were killed today. People were shot. And that's the end of your life. The politician would win or lose, will move on. You're gone. That is it. You're gone. If you lose anything today, if you lose any part of your body, you will live with this scar for the rest of your life. And the highest the politician will say is, oh, we are sorry. I will law. One man down.
Or I'm shocked to hear that something like this has happened.
They are always shocked.
Really unfortunate.
And thank God, the Elegushi area today, we purposely visited that place because of what happened during the presidential election. Although when we are entering, we saw some sacrifices have been done on the ground.
That sacrifice matters, Sandra. Somebody called a friend of mine called me from Akwa Ibom, one of the leading leaders, and he was like, that they saw pictures that they are, and I said, whatever happened in the traditional system, I'm a political journalist. Leave tradition for the people that understand the mystery of tradition. It's none of my business.
You know, Fuhad was saying on Friday that he's not the custodian of culture
tradition.
Neither am I.
Culture and tradition.
But don't forget that part of the functions of journalists is the transmission of cultural heritage.
Hold on.
Hold on.
Go and carry
You know that they are doing Oro in Elegushi. Was it Niro or Elegushi?
It was Elegushi.
It's Elegushi.
Yeah.
So the
Oro has nothing to do with that kind of sacrifice. I'm
so
a truly Yoruba man.
But
So
does not know.
and the funniest thing is that I even match
Nobody knows all.
so I even match it, and thank God those polling units around there, because 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, about 8 different polling units around the Oba's palace, and inside his palace 1, 2, I think 3 polling units inside his own palace. Thank God everywhere were very peaceful, and the police officers also this time around they did their job, apart from 2 polling units that INEC officials did not even show up at all.
All right, thank you very much. Fuhad, Saheed. So yours was a mix of both.
Yeah, both.
Or majorly good vibes. That's what we got from your from Lagos Central, where the incumbent governor also
voted,
cast his vote, and whatnot. Well, what was at the polling unit of the incumbent governor? What was the atmosphere like?
Yeah, I think the crowd was bigger this time, and I assume again I had to speak to some of the residents again. Why do you have the numbers this time? And what he told me was that there's better mobilization now. Again, what mobilization is, I don't know. That was the word he used. I'm trying to just report it the way it was said. He said the first election that the mobilization was poor, but they have a better mobilization now, so they're able to pull out the numbers. I think the governor arrived in his traditional. I think the last time he voted, he was wearing white and his black cap. The same thing happened today. He came in, and I think it was smooth and seamless. His wife accompanied him to the polling booth, and I think he did his voting in less than 10 minutes. Same with the wife. There were no issues, but there were, again, the crowd was much. Of course, the journalists were overzealous. I just pointed out that at some point they followed him to when he was casting his ballot at the cubicle, which was completely wrong. So but it all went well. He did his thing. I think we saw a number of monitors, observers, who also came. I think Odumaki was also there. The activist, the woman activist, was also there, speaking with journalists about her expectations for the election and all of that. So it went really well, really. No issues. And generally on Lagos Island, it was more of party and festival. It was too much festivity
for holiday like this.
So you had junctions and bays. What they call bays in Lagos Island. People were just there, merrymaking, eating, dining, whining, enjoying themselves. So it was really completely peaceful on Lagos Island. Again, moving from there, if you remember, we went back to Surulere, then parts of Lagos mainland, and of course Ijesha and all of that before we now got to Okota again, because of the reports we were getting that Okota was becoming violent and all of that. But generally, the governor voted peacefully. The crowd was huge. According to them, it was better mobilization this time, so they had the numbers.
Do a performance review we'll do a performance review of INEC. We'll do a performance review of security agencies. Also do a performance review of the electorate. Okay. Because at the end of the day, when Enough is Enough Nigeria were here yesterday, and they said something about the office of the citizen is the highest office, in the land. So when you have people, let them know, decide for you now, based on
review of
your coverage. INEC. Yes, review of INEC, a review of the security
and then the voters.
operators and the electorate.
Therefore, for INEC, I would say that it was a better performance than what we saw February 25. Materials arrived early. Lagos Central, I'm reporting Lagos Central. So materials in most of the polling units arrived early. I think the INEC officials, the polling officials, were better prepared this time. They understood what they needed to do. They were well settled in. They settled in easily, fastly, and voting commenced on time in most of the polling units. Lagos Central now. So for INEC, I think the problem this time did not really come from their side. Now, for the security operatives, I think we had the same arrangement that we saw February 25. Basically, police officers without arms at the polling units. And then, of course, in specific areas, specific locations, you had a combined force of the police and army, and then civil defense and others with arms and all of that, mounting positions in different parts of the city. But I think that did not work today. And that's why I think that they have to review the strategy of providing security on election day. Because, I just mentioned before Opeyemi and Nurudeen came into the studio that these guys causing violence at polling units don't do it using the main routes around the city. They do the Woro thing. They know the inner area. So what they do basically is to cause the disruption and move. So I think that, again, a better strategy needs to be adopted going forward to deal with election violence. These disruptions from boys coming to snatch ballot boxes, ballot papers, beavers. Beavers was a point of attack in most of the cases we recorded today. So I think the security officials replicated the same model they did February 25, but I think somehow today in Lagos and Lagos Central, it failed in some areas because, again, you were not able to contain some of the violence that was recorded. So that would be my assessment of.
All right. So if
for the voters now,
okay.
Now for the voters, I think again we saw voter apathy because, again, we are doing this analysis based on the data that we got from INEC of registered voters and people that collected their PVC. So if I go with that number,
87.2 million,
and like Opeyemi reported, in most of the polling units too, you find number of registered voters in their hundreds, maybe 600, 700, 800, and then accredited voters will be maybe 49. 60, 70, 80. I think the max, the highest I saw in a polling unit was maybe about 150, and that was just one or two polling, not majority of the polling unit. So again, the numbers didn't come out this time. I think it was even worse than what we saw February 25. Okay. What accounted for that, I don't know. There are people who have said that it could be voter suppression, voter intimidation, or the fact that, look, there were people who felt disappointed about the results of February 25, and so they just felt, hey, the same thing was going to happen. Why do I have to participate in a process that I'm not completely sure of? Right. So generally, I would say that, again.
So if you now were to score INEC,
Okay, let me do over 10. Over 10 for INEC. I think I'll give them 6 to 7 on the conduct of the governorship and state assembly elections in Lagos Central.
Lagos Central.
I needed to emphasize that.
That's what you're covering.
Then for the security officials, I think I'm going to give them 4.
Okay.
Because the response to even the reported case of violence was a bit poor. So I'll give them a 4. Then for the voters, I think I'll just call it 2 over 10.
2. All right. Thank you very much, Fuhad. Fuhad covered Lagos Central. Let's move on now to Lagos East. Someone sent a message now that Nurudeen likes bad news. He just sent a message now that what is happening. All right, but then Nurudeen, please, very short so we can wrap things up by 6:30. What's your performance review, then a scorecard?
Well, firstly, journalists don't create news. Journalists only cover news.
I report what you see.
I report what I see. And on the issue of the police, you recall that during the presidential election, I really gave a lot of thumbs up to the police officers because they were always, and today also, even at the polling unit where you don't find ad hoc staffs there, you could still see them, although in some certain polling units, you won't see police officer. In fact, there is one in 3 polling units together, only one female harmless woman.
I heard the man will just be looking at you.
and that's the thing. But so the rank is even go down seriously. I must confirm. Even the military that did marvelously well during the presidential election, they just open it up. Apart from some places in Ibejuleki, also some part of Etiosa. For security operatives, I think I'll give them below 5. I must confess. Then for the INEC cannot even take up to 5 considering what happened in Lagos East today. In fact, especially what happened in some certain area, Etiosa, part of VGC, some part of Ibejuleki, I'll give them maybe around 4 or 4.5. And for the electorates, because of the low turnout, and you can't even blame them. An election that is filled with a lot of harassment in some certain quarters, intimidation, and for a kind of country that you have to save your life. I think I'll give them above what Fuhad give them, because there are some people that are ready to vote, but they don't have that ability, they don't have that capacity. When you consider the number of thugs, and they saw a lot of our reportage and what they are seeing flying all around, so I'll give them 3.5 for the electorate because majority of them did not come out and vote.
3.5. Okay. Opeyemi Akinyode. Thank you very much, Nurudeen Adegbenro, covered Lagos East. Let's move on now to Opeyemi, Lagos West.
If Nurudeen is a class teacher.
Seriously, I'm very stringent.
Some of his students will gather in one night and they will flog him.
He's a lecturer now.
He's the 4.5, 3.5. See, the truth is this. This certainly is not a particular process any one of us is proud of. That's just the simple truth. It's really difficult to see how many positives we can get out of this, but I will still say that our electoral process is still evolving, even though some people think we should have moved faster than we are right now. For INEC, for the places I covered, there were really reports of early arrival of INEC officials. In fact, by the time we got to some places as early as 8:05, 8:10, they've already set up their cubicle. Although we got some place around to 10, they were just fixing the places. So there was barely anywhere covered today that they had issues with beavers. Some of the beavers worked really well. The beavers had always worked well, by the way. Yeah. I think a lot of people need to know that there's a huge difference between the beavers and the IRF. So the beavers worked as usual. They got places where they had their materials on time. Some places they had to go get people to get their markers. And also for INEC, I think I'll just give them a 5/10. Let's just stay somewhere good, bad. We can improve, we can get better. I'll just give them a 5/10. Okay. No big pass, no failure as such. But for the security agencies, too much is given to the whole lot more is expected of. And I mean, there were promises of area surveillance. We saw Air Force helicopter. We saw all of those things. To Kano during the election.
Yes, that was something. Sorry to cut you, Opeyemi, but yes, there were Tucano fighter jets. Fighter jets. Sambisa. I remember quite clearly when whenever DME Saka is trying to like.
Okay, let's
getting the Tucano jets, training people to use it. Everything, what the plan or the information I got was, okay, we're trying to fight terrorism, it's for Samisa, and it was supposed to flush out things, and we're having elections. We have policemen that are unarmed, we have military officers that are far off, but we have Tucano fighter jets.
Who identified the Tucano fighter jets?
Should we call them?
No, I just asked who identified it, because I don't know it from media. I'm only seeing it on ground. I don't know.
You did not see a very big drone.
I saw all of those.
Okay, you saw that big drone, that big one.
No, what I'm trying to say is that
drone is different from fighter.
No, what I was even trying to say is that, I mean, let's even say we had all of those things. All of those things are supposed to give us security, are supposed to scare the bad guys away. All of those things are supposed to give people a lot of confidence to be able to come out and exercise their franchise. So with all of those, with all of the huge amount of billions of naira that was spent into securing this election, we're still having not just reported case of violence, we're having grandstanding violence, not just pockets, not just skirmishes here and there. We had, I mean, people were shot, people were beaten, people were stabbed, which is quite unfortunate, but we have to just say things sometimes the way it is. So on the part of the security, I think it's a really bad outing for them. I'm sure they will go back and assess themselves if they really want to be truthful with themselves, because the level of security I saw today at Asiwaju's polling unit, if they dislodge that level of concentration to the hot zones in Lagos, I'm not sure we will report. So I'm asking, why do we have the commissioner of police? Why do you have all of these things with all of their guns, all of the DSS at one particular place? I understand it's the president-elect, okay. But then at the end of the day, we all have one PVC. Is the president-elect of the people of Nigeria, so he's as supposed to be safe as I am supposed to be safe. It's as simple as that. So I think for the security, a 3 is a really magnanimous scoreline for me. Let me just leave it at that. Now for the voter is a total 0 for me, and this is why. You have the opportunity to fix the problem you think you've identified. Yes, there are suppressions, there are voter.
I'm going to question that of Nurudeen. He's given the electorate 0. But based on the information as regards the voter intimidation,
let me tell you why. Sorry. Okay. Now, the places I covered, Yaba LCDA, all of the Aziz towards Onike, towards University of Lagos, all of those places
Road.
were absolutely peaceful, and we still have zero turnout. 613 voters registered, 89 voters. 124 voters registered, 51 voters. There were no report case of violence. All of those cases were peaceful. In fact, there was a place we got to as early as 2:45 or so when we called you. They finished sorting. They finished counting. They've pasted the result on the wall. 2:45 or 2:55. Let me say 3 p.m. Let me just say 3 p.m. They've already pasted the result on the wall.
Wow.
They had 311. They had 311 registered voters. They had only 77 people that came to vote. So that's just the truth. So if we have our own roles to play. See, if we have the numbers, it is very difficult. These thugs don't come in 20s. They don't have that much. They don't even come in 10. Maybe 4 or 5 of them. They come with the bottles. I'm not saying we should go aggressively violent against them, but I saw videos where people defended themselves. I saw videos where people came together. We knew all of these things was going to happen. It's very difficult for us to commit jungle justice. Oh, we see where they are beating a suspect and we all gather and beat him. But when people are coming in to abuse our right, abuse our franchise right, we just stay indoors. There's light or watch a movie. There's no space today. In short, I almost got down to beat some boys at Ikori. Like, there's no space today in Lagos, in the street of Lagos today, where they were not playing football. Every space, small boys, middle boys, old boys, everybody playing football. I'm asking, like, if you guys can collectively defend your franchise this way, all of these boys will know that these people are 50. If 5 of us can enter this place, there'll be trouble. And that's the truth. That's what I'm saying. I'm scoring us 0, and I'm still saying it again, that we can do way much better than we did in terms of the turnout. Sandra, there were polling units where it was just in front of one small household. When we were passing, I think we saw like 4 people there, 3 of them ad hoc staff, 1 person, 1 party agent. Sure, some parties don't even have agents. When we were coming back, they've closed shop. Like, they were not even there anymore. In less than 15 minutes that we went to interview the chairman, the executive chairman of Yaba local government development. By the time we were coming back, they finished, they've gone. So there were places where there were no reported case of violence, and there were still 0 turnout.
But do you know that there are some certain places that intimidation come in three different ways? There are some pre-election harassment. You've never heard of a particular area, the Bariga you talked about, by that Okuta Road down to St. Phoebus Road.
We know the owners of that place.
Where they've gone round even before this morning that come, if you are not voting for this particular, don't even bother to come. In that kind of a situation, automatically there are some certain people that will feel like, well, let me just save my head. But I must confess, today I give thumbs up to the resident of VGC. If virtually every area could be like them, they talk in unison, in fact, and they spoke in, and that was what give them the opportunity of having the chance to vote. If you have over 6,000 voters that are going to, that the election have to reschedule to them, although they are big people, but at the same time it's because they come together and a very big voice. For me, they are kind of people that every other community need to really.
Were there no threats at those places?
There couldn't be threat because they were inside an estate and they have their own security.
Were there no pre-threats in those places? That's exactly what
No, not at all.
There were no cases on those
because
places.
they are inside. Yes, assuming the election was held
outside of the gate.
I'm telling you, because 2-3 bus stops away, they hijacked, they snatched, and they attacked some certain people.
I think the biggest losers today, Sandra, let me quickly put this. The biggest losers today are the politicians.
Yes.
Yes, you may think you've won. Let me tell you what happens when you preside over a people that don't want you. Let me tell you what happens when you preside over a people that you are not their choice. You would never get your way with them.
No matter what you do.
No matter how much you try to please them when you get into office.
They don't care.
They did not choose you. You were literally forced on them, or you've imposed yourself on them. There's no how you want to do. So you wake up today, and after you think you've campaigned, you've done a lot of sensitization, you still carry your hard-earned money and give boys. You still give them drugs. You still give them weapons to go and disrupt an election. And then when they announce the winner, you will go to your place of worship, whether church or mosque or anywhere, and then you go and thank God. And you knew, but in your deepest of hearts, that you've sponsored people to go and disrupt the election in the places where you think you're not popular. You are the biggest loser.
Yes.
You may think you've won. You may think you've won. You may think you've won. I said it again, but deep down your heart, you know that you've stolen the mandate from the people, and posterity will judge you years down the line. So in all of this today, every single politician that sponsored any violent attack in any of the polling units in Lagos, in Gombe, in Kaduna, in Jos, any part in this country, you're a massive loser. You may get the certificate of return. You may enjoy all of the fortune that comes with your office, but deep down your mind, you know that somebody's blood had gone for this thing you are enjoying. You are the biggest loser.
I totally agree with you. And in support of that, I must tell you that majority of all these kind of politicians that sponsor violence all around, they hardly perform.
Because they are just seeking power.
No, they hardly perform.
They don't want governance. They just want politics.
There is no blueprint. They don't have manifesto. They don't know what they even want to do. What they want to do is that their power, and that's why you see some of them. They will leave their constituencies. They will leave their area immediately. They become whatever they want to become.
They will go relocate somewhere.
And they will never come back until after 4 years. But one thing that is so certain, like Opeyemi said, posterity, and posterity don't normally come like that. It comes now, it continues to generation upon generation. But I play that at this particular time, in subsequent election, reviewing this, we'll be able to know that we have to block all those loopholes, because today Nigerian police officer, they fall my hand seriously.
Thank you very
much. My friend
much.
Ben will not agree.
All right, thank you very much, gentlemen. I really appreciate this. Of course, we'll reconvene tomorrow when Opeyemi Akinyode will be feeding the studio live from the Collation Center. Unfortunately, we can't get any information right now because the entire VGC, about 11 polling units or so, 10 polling units
over
in
6,000.
the entire polling unit, VGC did not cast their vote. So their voting has been postponed to tomorrow 8:30 to 2 p.m. I don't know, some people say they want to go to church, but we'll see how that will turn out. So hopefully some people will not still disappoint Okwe again as regards coming out to come and exercise their franchise, because I know he will look for something to use against Nurudeen for saying that they put themselves together. It's all right. Thank you very much, Opeyemi Akinyode. We did a great job today.
Thank you, Sandra.
Thank you very much, Nurudeen, Adegbenro. We did a great job today. Thank you very much, Fuhad, Saheed. We appreciate. Okay. Well, what we do know is that it's been quite an interesting day, full of drama. But then trust us that henceforth we'll be doing post-election analysis and information and coming together to dig deeper and put some spotlight on certain things that
I think Opeyemi should be on his way to the Collation Center.
Yes, that we hope we're rounding up already.
They have not opened it yet.
Go and break the door now.
They've not erected.
They've not opened.
But I'm sure we're going to get good, begin to look at the figures and begin to analyze them as they come from the different local governments.
Yeah, by tomorrow we'll reconvene. I'm sure Nurudeen will be joining us, Fuhad, in the studio.
Definitely.
While Okwe is feeding us from the Collation Center. All right, thank you everyone. Don't forget that we have, documentary evidences as regards what was happening and transpiring at different polling units on all our social media platforms. Twitter at Mainland FM, Instagram, Facebook, and YouTube at Mainland 98.3 FM. So there's a video that's currently trending. Yes, the video was shot by yours truly, Nurudeen Adegbenro.
It's our video.
and it's trending.
And it's our video.
And it's our video.
Mainland 98.3
FM video. Although, before we go, apologies, gentlemen, that I'm pulling you back again. There's the major issue when I was going through the comment section was that, why didn't these people, take him to the hospital? They were just watching him, was bleeding out and all those.
We did.
Things like that. But, you mentioned something as regards you had to wait for a police officer to follow you or something like that. So maybe you should take that so we can.
Well, one thing there is that, and that is what Mainland FM represents, apart from taking him, will mature a senior police officer to follow us. We took him to hospital. He was well attended to. In fact, they were stitching his head before we left, because we can only see the one that was stabbed by the neck. That was one also at the head, and he was being stitched. He was being well taken care of before we left him. In fact, before we left the hospital, his younger brother that was a stone thrown away saw him when he was being beaten, because it's about like 7 or 8 people on him with cutlass, with whatever on him. But thank God that and in fact the police officer also really thanked Mainland FM for that,
for saving the man's life.
Sorry,
thank you.
I've been talking all
you need it. Yeah.
All right, thank you very much. That's it for today. I'm sure that we did what we could. We did our best. We've done what we can. We can just sit down now as INEC sorts and counts
results out,
and then we know whatever the result is. We'll accept. I mean, there's nothing we can do. Whatever the result is, whether we'll be seeing jubilation or not, but the most important thing is at the end of the day, let the best man win, and we'll leave that at that. Thank you very much. Coming up today is Saturday, so
so everyone can chill.
We have music coming up. Password is still around to ensure that
it dows the tension.
Yes, to bring down
some 5G.
Yes, some 5G used to be going on. So stay with us. It's what's that? Arianduleko. Thank you very much. There's Aria all over us.
Yeah.
Fuhad is coming from where they were sharing jollof rice.
The people that do Aria will do Aria.
I trust people. Even Sunday, where there is no election, it's
Aria Gallo. My people know they can.
Why some people were seeing blood?
I was seeing jollof rice.
Chops. We saw small chops.
But I must confess that in some part of Ethiopia also, especially the Koyi Link Bridge, those ones, they are always separate.
Don't worry, Nurudeen. Next time we put you Lagos Central, go Lagos East.